Hey there, I'm Josh, and welcome back to Monster Cat's original podcast called Mixdown. If you're new, thanks for joining us. This is a monthly series where we get up close and personal with some of electronic music's greats. On today's episode and throughout this season, you can join me as we explore the creative process and personal journeys of many of the artists that define Monster Cat's sound. Along the way, we'll dive into the world of electronic music and how our label Monster Cat has evolved within the dance space. Last month, we sat down with Grant and Ellis to discuss their most recent collab, Dead Man Walking, their solo projects, and their journey into publishing. If you missed it, you know what to do. Head over and check out the two-part episode after today's discussion. Just search on Spotify, which you're listening on right now, and find episodes 7 and 8. Now, for today, I had the pleasure of sitting down with electronic music veterans Infected Mushroom and our head of live programming, Dan Scarcelli. We talk about their upcoming album, I Am 25, their extensive career in the industry, and some of their favorite moments as a duo. So, let's dive into today's episode with Infected Mushroom right here on Mixdown.
Yeah, we can make salsa and you're gonna still recognize us somehow, you know?
Hairdressers.
Hairdressers, yeah, scissors, pencil.
That's what we do. Most of our life, we cut and chop.
Yeah. We're not expecting to land, you know? We're expecting to stay in space, mostly, you know?
Kebabis, which is basically kebab babies.
Is it possible you were cloned?
I have no hair and no eyebrow, so I have a lot of deficiencies. I might be cloned.
Or you're the future of humanity, who knows?
Or I'm a potato, yeah. And a potato is cloned. So, yeah, but I might be cloned, yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us today. This is just going to be a very casual conversation between the four of us. Dan is here joining us today. Normally it's just me, but he has been following you for much longer than I have been able to. And just talking about your music, your life experiences, just getting more personable with the fans.
Perfect.
Dan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, yeah, I think the last time we all spoke would have been, 2.5 years ago? I think the very first MCTV live stream that we did from your studio. And Josh and I were actually laughing before because we remembered the amount of people that were there. And I think you were doing push-ups and I think putting like hand sanitizer on your head and everyone loved it.
To be honest, these were good times. I'm still putting hand sanitizer in my head, but the push-up things, I became lazy lately, you know? So this is a bit harder. But the sanitizer is still here somewhere. I don't know. It's a new studio. It's a new studio, yeah.
So starting all the way back at the beginning, what got you both into producing in the first place?
I think for me it was just, it came naturally because it was super young, you know? I was like 4 or 5 years old when I was really attracted to keys that my parents' family used to have in their house. And I always just was trying to figure out how to play melodies from a young age. So I can't, since then it just became an obsession, but for me, I can't explain it. This is how it was.
Pretty much same for me. I learned classical piano since I was a kid. And then the natural step out of it was going into keyboards. And I'm I was born in 70s, but I'm from the 80s area. So keyboards was a big thing in the 80s. So what I was playing, I wanted to produce. And so I moved to keys. Then later on, rock came. I've been in a rock band, punk band. And then I went to the Israeli army, which is a different scenario whatsoever. And then I met Erez and we started producing together, not knowing really what we're doing, but it was a start.
Brings me right into my next question. How did you two end up meeting?
I came back from Goa. I was in the trance and Goa scene back in the 90s and the beginning. I came back from Goa and I really wanted to produce music. So a mutual friend of ours was a DJ. He met between me and Erez's partner at the time. And we started doing a little bit of music. And then I met Erez, started doing music with him. And we didn't have a name then. So I was Duvdev and he was a part of a band called Shidapu. So all our tracks, our first Infected Mushroom tracks was Duvdev and Shidapu. Okay. And they had no names. They had only numbers. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, until we got them to go figure it out. And all the DJs back then in Israel started playing and they go like, you have Duvdev and Shidapu 5. that's unreal. I go like, well, what? And then we realized that something needs to change, and we technically formed Infected Mushroom.
Incredible. I mean, that's a lot easier to keep track of the amount of songs that you guys did. Just numbering them in order.
You know what? Going back to those days, it was simpler. It was just there today. Infected Mushroom, 2002.
If you had to put a number to your releases now, what do you think that would be?
You know what?
That's a hard one.
It's not only a hard one. This week we had a big article in Israel talking about the new album that is coming out now. And she asked us, so what's the number of this album? We really didn't know what to tell her, because do you include EPs? Do you include short releases? So we really don't know. So we probably have like 15 albums, 14, 15 albums if you're counting, but we're not sure, you know?
Doesn't matter now.
I actually have a question. Going back to how both of you got into music, did either of your parents have music as part of the household, or was this something that just naturally found your way into your life?
In my case, my dad was playing a lot of music. He had a like mixing desk, so he was like mixing music for his friend, DJing with cassettes, whatnot back then. And so that's my beginning of being brainwashed by 80s music.
Well, for me, my father played accordion at the house, and my brother was a guitarist, and I grew up with my brothers, so they were listening to Pink Floyd and all of that and stuff. So that's what brought me more closer into music.
Very, very fun. So, fun fact for you, I'm 25 years old, which means you all have been producing for longer than I have been alive, which is just incredible to me. And I would really love to know, what was the first program you started working in? Because I imagine it was very different back then getting into the production scene.
Yeah, back then it was tracker based. So when you used to download illegal games back then, there was this horrible installation music, you know, that
like
sounds
64
like
beats, yeah, 8 beat and.
Anyway, so it was very limited program, but in the same time, it was genius by its limitation. And we managed to create this kind of like this demo scene music back in the day. And yeah, so this was the first. The first one was Scream Tracker, and then it became, there was both bunch of like alternatives, really like all of them were pretty decent. And then I chose, what was it? Impulse
Tracker, yeah. Was our main
Impulse Tracker in the beginning, before Cubase.
Mm-hmm.
And even though before Cubase came out, when Cubase came out and we moved to Cubase, we still incorporated Impulse Tracker because of its uniqueness, like chopping style and loop style. So we continued with that Impulse Tracker for a while, but then when Cubase came out, we basically moved to Cubase, and we stayed until today.
And you can hear in one of our tracks, Tommy the Bat, Impulse Tracker a lot.
The whole album, like the Gathering album, has a lot of the loops and chops are still from Impulse Tracker.
Wow. I was going to say, over the last 25 years, have you found all the new programs and technology more creative freedom, or do you still find yourself using some of the old traditional methods that you first got into music?
Definitely the new stuff are just amazing. The old school have their place, but this definitely saves weight when traveling. You don't have to travel with a bunch of keyboards and stuff. You have VSTs that sounds just as good or even better in most cases, to be honest.
So something that I've really respected about you guys is I'll hear like a 3 or 4 second snippet of your song and I can immediately tell that it's Infected Mushroom. How did you go about finding your sound, and how would you say it's evolved over the years that you've been producing together?
You know, this is in the same sentence. It's a compliment and our curse. You know, it's like like we sometimes trying to change and stuff.
Do not sound. We want to trick you. We want to give you 20 seconds to get it.
Yeah, we can make salsa and you're gonna still recognize us somehow. You know, so this is a curse and whatever. And I don't know. It's like we're just trying to be honest with what Duvdev and I like. And our middle ground is Infected Mushroom sound, you know.
I think what you're talking about as well is our attention to details on small stuff like hi-hats and stuff like that. And that's very recognizable. But again, it goes back to me and Erez, we really like it. And we really like into that kind of production. Now, something about our sound, we sound a bit, when people say they call us Middle Eastern sound, which we don't know what it is because the Middle East is a big place, and second, we live in the United States. But there's something Oriental about our sound from growing up in Israel that came into our electronic music, and that's very recognizable to the ear of somebody that never heard us before, or says, "Oh, okay, I get it. That's Infected Mushroom," and when you hear it again, it's there. So that's maybe a signature that is easy to recognize.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I know what you mean by it's a blessing and a curse, but on a compliment or a positive, like I think both of you have continued with consistency for so long, and that consistency also really worked at the start. And to keep that the whole time is also a testament of how creative that was when you guys were putting this together. So
thank you.
I think it is a very good positive.
Thank you so much.
I think there's a lot of musicians that are very spread out with what they're trying to achieve, and that may or may not land all the time, and it just kind of makes it feel a lot more thin.
We're not expecting to land, we're expecting to stay in space mostly, most of the time.
That actually is a really good question. Do you find yourself now producing for yourselves or producing for your audience, or a mixture of both?
We always produce for ourselves, but if I'm honest, we did think about the dance floor. So it's to make in the beginning maybe our egos happy to see everyone lose it in the dance floor.
Even with thinking on the dance floor, at the beginning we thought of the dance floors for me and him because we used to dance on the dance floor. Today we don't dance on the dance floor, so that's what he's saying. We're thinking about a different dance floor, for the crowd, that dance floor. Now, if you talk about the longevity of the years, 25 years, 26 years, the people who listened to Infected Mushroom 26 years ago, most of them are not on the dance floor today. So we think about a different.
No, but the dance floor for us in our genre is not like a regular bed word, It like just like you have a C part in a rock song or whatever it is. So for us, a drop it's another thing. It's a big deal, a drop, Mm-hmm. And what comes in has to be very powerful in our genre, and just like a big chorus have to be in a rock song, So we just have more. Definitions for each little section.
If at the end of the day you're producing your sound for yourself, how do you stay motivated over all these years? Is there things in your life? Is there a central kind of vision that your music is going towards? Right on this call, there's so much energy on this call. How do you keep that?
It's a part of me. It's not something that I work on, I come up with ideas in a day, 10, 15 ideas. Maybe all of them are bad, maybe all of them are good. I record them to my iPhone, and then I bring it to the studio, and then I send it to Erez because we have two different studios and there was COVID for the last 2 years. And then we say, okay, let's work on it. But and Erez opens a new plugin it's fun and games for us, to be honest. We're not these musicians that suffer or need to think about an album. We just do all the time. And what's cool about when we started the program at this podcast, and you ask how easy is with the new gear, with the laptop today and a phone, you can keep all your ideas and produce a decent track wherever you are. I don't need to be in the studio, and I don't need to be with Erez. Well, eventually we come back to it and produce an Infected Mushroom track. But the idea part is today, in my opinion, is the easiest way to do. And we keep on writing music all the time. Mm-hmm. Not all of it good, not all of it bad, but eventually after 2 or 2.5 years, and this is our kind of system, we put out an album.
So going right into you two sending tracks back and forth and working together, I've noticed that there's a lot of live elements that are in your production. How do you go about mixing the electronic elements with the live elements and putting it all together into one just beautiful piece of work?
Well, each have its place frequency-wise. I don't know how deep you want to go on the nerdy side.
Dive in.
Yeah, so basically, you have the bass frequencies, and let's say you have a distortion guitar. You want to make sure you use the plugin Suit 2, for example, on top of the distortion to remove all the annoying resonance that really hurts your ear. And then you can really make the guitar as loud and wide as you can. And also recording the guitars. Dudev and I recording our own guitars for most of the albums. That's why they're sounding that average. But what we do is we do note by note. We just record a section of phrases like da, da-da, or titun, or tut, every note, and then we cut it, quantize it, and then we send it to a distortion effect or whatnot. And so we can sound like better guitar players. But all it is, it's basically our main job is scissors and
hairdressers.
Hairdressers, yes, scissors, pencil.
That's what we do. Most of our life, we cut and chop.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm sure Amit, you and Dan have quite of experience.
Well, the
with,
cut and chop, as you can see, I
barbershop.
took it to the shaving level. So yeah.
All right, so let's get into Black Velvet for a moment. Just came out the other day. What made you want to cover that song? And funny enough, I didn't even realize that it was a cover until I found out later.
But this is a great reason why sometimes to do a cover that old and to bring it back, it's a great reason because a lot of people don't know the original. And they go like, okay, Black Velvet, that's an Infected Mushroom thing. Then they go realize it's not, you know? And I even had it with Walking on the Moon, which people say, wow, that's an Infected Mushroom tune. But I go like, do you know there's a police walking on the moon? But people don't know sometimes, not even about a different song. So that's one thing. And about Black Velvet, you know, I wanted to do a cover of a 90s or a late 80s song. And I heard it in the radio with my wife coming home from a date night. And I said, wow, that sounds pretty cool. Went up to the studio, tried the riff, sounded cool. Then brought Cold Airs. I'm telling you, I'm doing a Black Velvet cover. And he said, wow, my mother is here. It's one of her favorite songs. So I go like, okay, doing Black Velvet. So called Yossi, recorded guitars. And then Yossi Mizrahi, which is our guitarist, his wife is Ninette, which is a very famous singer. And I said, you know what? Ninette will be perfect on it. We brought her. She recorded. Then me and Ayers went back and forth on this track for a while on the mixing side, recording, blah, 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 blah. And then came Black Velvet. And I think it's a very unique... It's a unique Infected Mushroom track because usually we don't go to blues country kind of vibe, and also to put it on a 4x4 BPM was a bit of a challenge. But I think it turned out pretty good. People are happy about it, so we're happy.
I liked
Definitely.
it.
Yeah, I thought it was very fun.
We are old and happy. And old.
All right, well, let's listen to it. This is Black Velvet featuring Ninette Tayeb, and you heard it right here on Mixdown. All right, let's take a quick break from the music here. Stepping outside of the studio, how do you like to spend your time, just either on your own, together with family? What do you enjoy doing?
You know, that's a great question for your age. When you are our age and you have 3 kids, you have no hobbies, no free time whatsoever, and no life, we call it, in Israel. No. That means the moment I go out of this podcast out here, there is a wife saying, okay, now you're free to do a lot of stuff.
Duvdev, you're reducing population right now.
I'm just saying.
Elon Musk said we need to increase the population. You're reducing in like
that's
the chances.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. What do you do in your free time, Ares? Please tell me.
Well, I do kayak sometimes. I like photography. I love spending time with my kids and wife, you know. But it's all, I'm doing, a bunch of sound design stuff and nerdy shit, tuning pianos, whatever it is that I have time in COVID that was amazing, So I found lots of little hobbies.
Well, what's interesting, like even if you say you don't have that free time because of everything, I think you're putting a lot of that significance or that passion into your music because your music is also being received by so many people every single day, every single album, every single year. So, sure, you might not be thinking you have so much free time, but all of that is having such a big effect.
The producing side, I have time because I produce, all the time, even if it's in a plane or even if it's in a different environment. But and also, spending COVID gave me a lot of stuff to learn. I spent time with my kids that I never had before. I did some sports, yoga, if you call that a hobby, whatever. But now when we're back on a roll as a band. It's basically road, and shows, and then music in between. So that's the reality of Infected Mushroom.
But it's not a tight schedule or a hard schedule. I think we learned with the years to really manage our our calendar, let's call it this way. So we schedule it in a very convenient way.
Yep. As creative work should be, I think.
Yeah.
On a personal question, how has both of your relationship evolved over the years? It's a lot of years working together.
Well, we are more than husband. Like, we both changed wives on the way. We both got divorced and remarried. And we stayed. Dudav and I. The stuff we argue about, I wish every country will argue about the stuff that we argue about. This bass line is not loud enough. This melody have too much high mid. That's what everyone should argue about.
We have arguments about that and quality of food. That's the only arguments we have. Is this hummus an 8 or a 9?
Was it a good restaurant?
Was it a good restaurant or no? So, and then music-wise, we have our own, and that's good. Exactly. So, and we keep our time, we spend a lot of time together, and our separate time we keep to ourselves and to our families. And again, it's been, for us, lucky enough, it was fun in games, and we like doing what we're doing, so it's a good relationship.
Well, let me phrase it a different way. Like, if there's anyone listening that is in a band that's working with other people, how is there any advice then that you two could give to keep that relationship strong and creative for many years?
Well, first, don't fight about money. Make it very clear. And I recommend, if you share everything equally, then it always sounds fair. And the second thing, it's in the 10 Commandments. So don't get yourself into a situation that will cause someone else harm, So, don't involve girls' issues, because when people travel, they sometimes, drink a lot and do crazy stuff. As long as you can keep these two, I think you'll be just fine.
Yeah,
and
great.
Also, when you get success, like when you, after stage, like you, show after show, you have sold out shows and you have fans running after you and they want your attention and they give you a lot of love, it's easy to get your ego up, So I recommend people to always stay in contact with their old school friends, and so they can keep you intact, Reality check.
Yeah, very good. I have another question. Of all the records you put out, is there one or a few that really stand out in your eyes as being a defining moment in your careers?
For me, in careers, we know it, it can be measured. Vicious Delicious, but for me personally, is Converting Vegetarians, the first one and the second one.
Funny enough, Vicious Delicious was the very first CD that I would have owned, and that is what introduced me to both of you.
Which is great. And Vicious,
and I love this album.
Yeah, Vicious Delicious was our first album produced in the United States. And it was basically me and Erez, when we came to the United States, we were influenced by what was going on then and that years over here. Linkin Park kind of rose up and all this kind of band. And we tried to sound pretty much what we call American, which today sounds funny for me, but anyways. And again, we didn't succeed, by the way. We stayed with our Middle Eastern influences, trying to sound American. And that's why that album is so diverse. You have Becoming Insane, then you have Heavyweight, then you have Special Place, Suleiman. There's so many other tracks in this album. It was such a divided album, songs, trance, rock, whatever. But back then, when we came and broke here in the United States, that album really opened a lot of people to electronic music. A lot of producers today, which are huge producers, come to me and they say, you know what? Vicious Delicious was the album. If it is Elenium, if it is Skrillex, if it is Porter Roberts, all the guys that I know, they all listen to Vicious Delicious, which is insane for us, because me and Erez, when we did it at the time, we didn't know nobody here in the United States, we came like a big trance band from Europe, whatever. But we came here, nobody knew us, So it was fun to make that album. We lived in the same house with me, Erez, 2 wives, few dogs, studio underneath. It was our first house in LA. We didn't know what's going on. And that kind of, freshness, it came out Vicious Delicious.
Yeah. How do you come up with the names?
It was because we have so much music. The album he mentioned, Converting Vegetarians, we were laughing already to put names with no meanings that people will go search them up. Like we have Smahuta over there. Avrats is a friend of ours that came to us and say, why don't you name a track after me? We go like, there you go, Avrats.
Yeah, we gave up, giving attention to names. Like we spend way too much time. I rather make music and not think about names.
Then then you go like power of consciousness, and you think you have a great name. You go like, what are you kidding me? Okay, so we just gave up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's such a wonderful callback to like the very beginning days where you just named it 1, 2, 3.
That was amazing. Yeah, we should go back to that, Eric.
117. So I want to dive into Walking on the Moon for a second. That was your first track in Rocket League, I believe. And I'm curious, how does that feel to start having your music start to show up in video games and start to connect with that younger audience and that next generation?
That's great, now I play with my kids games, and also that's a free game and it has a massive reach. And they even have accessories of Infected Mushroom, like flags and, all these card designs. So thanks to Monster Cat, all of this happened, obviously, but we love it. And we have more stuff planned in the future.
And Kebabis, am I even saying that correctly? Kebabis.
Which is basically kebab babies.
Okay.
Kebabis. But you see, when you asked about names, it has no
meaning. That was on our 9-year anniversary, and you had just released with us maybe once or twice before. How did it feel to be a part of an anniversary album for Monster Cat and be welcomed into the community just so open arms?
I gotta say, I know Mike for many years, and even before the Monster Cat days. And when Monster Cat started, I was following in the beginning and stuff. And when Infected Mushroom came in, and this is because of our relationship with Mike and everything when it came, I didn't know how the Monster Cat community will receive Infected Mushroom, because we come from a psytrance community, and which we're very known over there. And even for the psytrance community, it was a weird move for us moving to Monster Cat, but I gotta say the community received us from the first moment. And all these talks about this is psytrance and it doesn't maybe belong to Monster Cat went down the drain, because again, the Monster Cat community is a very big, I call it electronic community, and they like a lot of diverse. Well, today you know it because there's so many instincts there. But when Monster Cat started, I remember it was pegboard nerds, and it was all these kind of which we love and collaborated with and stuff. So when we came, the community accepted us from the get go. So and it just grew up, and I really like being in a different community than what me and Erez are used to, and mixing those communities together, just was a very good relationship, and we're happy for it.
Speaking of community, how have you found the Infected Mushroom community? How has that grown, and how have you really empowered that?
Well, first we exist like almost the same time as dinosaurs.
Ancient.
Yes, so just like dinosaurs are famous, they didn't do anything. They died. They didn't do shit, but they're famous. Same thing.
But wait, when we die, it's going to be a bigger community, Eric.
So we didn't do anything special. We just survived longer than anyone else. We won the longevity game.
No, and I think about the community of Infected Mushroom. The Infected Mushroom sound evolved or not evolved, changed or not changed, but it's really true to a core. And it's really kind of, until today, from album 1 to album 1, it's really didn't change that much, and really is, and fans appreciate it. They go like, oh, I know this track, even if it's not psytrance, if it's something, I know it's going to be the heavy sound or the Infected Mushroom sound. So we nourish that. We really take care of the communities on the live aspects when we go to the shows. We try to meet as much as our fans that we can. For some people, and a lot of people that meet us, Infected Mushroom changed their lives. That was not our intention. Me and Erez, we're about fun and games, and you dance in a party, But some people take the music, in not only our music, any kind of music, as a religion, And there's people out there that Infected Mushroom is a religion for them. So we try to meet those fans, talk about them, how it changed their lives and stuff like that. Sometimes we're blown away. We go like, what? That track was changed your life? We had no meaning. We didn't meant to do that, So we love our fans and we try to be as much as accessible to them as possible.
So let's talk about your upcoming album for a second. If there was one track on it that just stands out to you guys, what would it be?
For me, it's Cookies from Space.
That's a fun one.
Yeah, it's like really got complex chord changes, not complex, but not common ones, you know, that for us they made sense, and do the voice in the opera style, you know, I think sounds really kind of weird and big, you know, and I think we succeeded to build together with Bliss this really creepy vibe and heavy metal, progressive, psytrance, whatever it is. And the tempo changes in the end and all this. It's like a whole story. Like
the longest track in Monster Cat catalog. We can continue. Yeah. This album is very hard to choose one track because it's all so different. Again, this album reminds me at least of Vicious Delicious because of the changes in it. It has a lot of songs, a lot of psytrance tracks, psytrance with lyrics, reggae. We have so many vocalists inside this album, so it's hard for me now to choose a track. But in time I decide. There's so many collaborations, so many artists came into this album, which we like all of them, you know, and we'll see. I don't have a track yet. I'm just happy that we finished the album. That's
yeah. We also have a track with Mr. Bill. That's great.
Mr. Bill, 311, Hope 6, Nina Taye, May Svedia, what's his name? Bliss. There's so many in this album, so it's very hard to choose, for me at least, at the moment.
Makes total sense. Well, let's listen to one of the collabs. This is Infected Mushroom and Bliss with a Cookie from Space right here on Mixdown. Something that I find so refreshing about Infected Mushroom is a lot of artists these days will pick an idea and the entire track will revolve around that idea. And I feel like your tracks very much take listeners on a journey all the way through. Does that come through in the way that just your tracks are a little bit longer than normal, or are you just trying to create a journey from the get-go?
For us, it's more kind of a journey. Yeah, it's like we see it more as classical music when it comes to arrangement, and not necessarily as a verse, chorus. You know,
even with the drops, we don't think about one drop. We always want to take it differently. And again, yes, our tracks are longer, so it's easier to put the journey in. It's like old rock, you know, when you listen to Bohemian Rhapsody. If it was a short track, you could never put out that such of a story into a track if it was a 3-minute track. Same with November Rain by Guns N' Roses, for example. These are long journeys that you can take down. And of course, radio kind of destroyed that scene. But lucky enough for us, we don't think only about radio. So we can do journeys. Yeah.
It makes a very pleasurable listening experience.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, we've been speaking a lot about how long you've been in the industry. Do you have a legacy that you want to live on or leave on in the music space?
I think we already have like shitloads of albums that hopefully, I think already enough people, way more people than we ever expected heard the albums. So I think we're good in this department. And
legacies, you know, maybe remembered in the pages of time, but you don't know that. But and again, Erez is right. You know, we've been doing it for years, and we're consistent. And hopefully, people, whenever they discover an Infected Mushroom album, if it's ancient for them or if it's new or whatever, I hope they say, okay, this is really cool. And I hope this will be standing. Like, even when people today listen to our album, The Gathering, the first album, and say it's very cool, this is a big compliment for me and Erez, because it's an album that was written 25 years ago. And if you think it's cool today, then we probably did something right back then, you know? Probably. Yeah.
There's for some reason, I think it was years ago, I was watching like this Lego documentary, and what was really cool about Lego, and this will connect, is that right from the start, Lego perfected the scale or the system. I think it was everything connected, and never once did they ever change that, because if you change that, everything breaks. So it's right from the start. Both of you perfected that sound, or the core of that sound, and everything
blocks,
else. Yeah, the building blocks.
Yeah, definitely. I think this was a good definition. Thank you. comparing us to Lego. That's amazing. keep talking. I like that.
How has the music industry evolved in your eyes over the years?
It's not only evolved, it's a different whole world. It's like this music industry back in the day was it's a big monster that you can almost not reach. To sign an album back then, Me and Erez, our Gathering album, when we talk about it, was refused by all the labels in our country. Because when we came with that album to the labels, they go like, what am I supposed to do with this? Nobody's going to play it on radio. Nobody wants to hear this. What is this? And why should we sign it? So this was the answer from every label that we went to. So it was a different whole universe than today. Today, you do music, you put it out there, and if a kid in TikTok likes it, you're huge. So how can you take this kind of scenario I never thought the music business will arrive to the model that it exists today, in a good way and in a bad way. There's advantages and disadvantages, but it's a different ball game, different universe. And I think today, your main thing, and this is why what me and Erez recommend to a lot of artists, just do a lot of music and put it out there. It will usually suck in the beginning because you don't know what you're doing. Every artist suck at the beginning. They don't, even if they have great ideas in the head, doesn't come out. But if you do enough music and enough friends of yours will push it, and you will have eventually something unique, you will succeed. And then comes the whole music industry to support that.
That's great.
So this one is going to be very tough. And okay, if you need to take a second here, if there was one track that you've released that sums up the Infected Mushroom project as a whole, what would it be and why?
It's not that hard. For me, it will be Heavyweight, because Heavyweight has all the Infected Mushroom elements in one song. You have the heavy metal, you have the story, you have the 10-minute long of a track, you have trance inside, psytrance, complex melodies, the distortion. So for me, Heavyweight sums up and always will sum up Infected Mushroom.
I have to agree, sadly. I mean, we have lots of other tracks like Heavyweight, but Heavyweight is the one, I think.
Very cool.
This is a good answer, Josh. You've asked this question on almost every show, and
I have.
We actually thought going into this that this would probably be the hardest question to answer just because of the amount of music that's put out. But the fact that both of you are solidified on that, and it was actually very easy to answer that, again, goes back to that Lego thing I was just saying at the start. Like, the core concepts were near perfected right from the start, and everything is just evolved from that. So I think that's incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think it goes back to your connection as a duo for this long. I mean, same mindset.
Probably, yeah. We have this, definitely, we 99% we're thinking about the same food as we speak, but yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Is it possible you were cloned?
Well, me, if you look at me, I have no hair and no eyebrow, so I have a lot of deficiencies. I might be cloned.
Or you're the future of humanity. Who knows?
It's true.
Or am I potato? Yeah, and a potato is cloned. So yeah, but I might be cloned. Yeah.
Well, while we look into that, how about you listen to this project-defining track from Infected Mushroom? This is Heavyweight.
I don't know if we have too many other questions, but was there anything maybe that you guys wanted to talk about that we didn't ask?
Well, again, going back to this new album, I'm 25, was a very hard album to produce because this is the first time we produced from two different studios and via the net between me and Erez, and that because of COVID. So it's a very unique album. Again, it's a COVID album, I call it. And I think we will talk about it in 10 years from now. You go like, oh, wow, this was produced in COVID. COVID gave a lot of artists one thing that they never had. It's time. So, and then collaborations. You know how hard it is to collaborate with so many artists because nobody has time? In this album, everybody had time. I called this guy, hey, let's do, sure.
It's two things,
no.
Not only time. It brought time and audio movers.
No, audio movers made it professional, but again, time. I called Nick from 311, hey, you want to sit? Sure. You know?
Yeah, easy.
Yeah, easy. Well, you have time? Well, what do I have
sure.
besides time? You know? So it's a very unique concept of an album, and to produce it. And I'm so happy that it's coming out. And this is stuff that we started writing 2.5 years ago. So now to see them coming out, super happy. For the infected mushroom community to the Monster Cat community. Again, we've been received so well all over the years, and we're happy that this comes again in Monster Cat. I gotta say to John Harbush that did the art for even more of Just the Same, their previous album and this album. He did an amazing job. And this is another thing we really pay attention to, is usually if you see the Infected Mushroom art all over the years, me and Erez are very picky about what we choose as an artist to do an album, and there's so many of them. And big up for them for taking the crazy ideas that me and him have in the music-wise, and then we gave him imagine I come to an artist and you go like, listen, we have a name, Head of NASA and the Two Amish Boys, and that artist needs to take this to canvas. That's a hard concept to grasp.
Very difficult.
Yeah. So thank you for all the artists that helped us do what we do, and that's pretty much it.
If you're an artist, go check our plugins. Polyverse, we have a bunch of plugins. We have also a free one, Wider, which is also amazing before distortion sounds. Highly recommended. And make music.
Go get them.
Yeah, Erez is right. We also do plugins, and go check them out. It will help your music production for sure. If you like the Infected Mushroom sound, it will help you a lot.
Yeah, we also have one for Waves. It's called Waves Pusher.
Great. I think that's it for us. I don't have any other questions. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to both of you. You don't have to say that it's end. I think you have 10 minutes left that you can stay in your studios before you go out into the real world.
Oh, believe me, I'm not even in the next 10 minutes. I'm not texting no one that I'm free. I'm just saying, like, if I get a text, I'm very busy.
Yeah, as you can see, I'm super busy too. I'm suffering.
Look how busy Erez is. Look how Erez is the most busy person in Laguna Beach at the moment.
I'm gonna watch some dolphins.
Dolphins.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to chat with us. This was a real pleasure.
Guys, it was our
great.
pleasure. Thank you so much, and looking forward for the episode and the podcast.
Absolutely. And the album.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
And that just about wraps it up for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have on Infected Mushroom and Dan Scarcelli. Be sure to hit that follow button to never miss a beat, as we have episodes coming out every month with all new artists to the show. On top of that, look out for I Am 25, dropping everywhere September 16th. It is an absolutely incredible album. Anything and everything goes. Really looking forward to it. Until next time, thank you so much again for joining us. I've been Rocket Man, signing off. See ya.